Hello, everyone. Today is January 30th, 2023, and today we have our meeting 17, and we will review habit number 5, and we will start habit number 6, synergize. Guys, beautiful, beautiful habit. I actually don't know which habit is better. All of them are unique and all of them are different and they're beautiful. So a couple of announcements. Actually, maybe I don't need to do that because here is everyone who our core group. So let me skip announcements and share the screen. So guys, I don't see you. Так, share the screen. And oh, okay. I had the two presentations, and because I think, where are you? So how is our habit number 5 doing? Habit number 5 is the heart of all 7 habits. You remember the most challenging, but it's the heart and the most beautiful. Is anybody had some experience, try to implement it in life, remember something? Let's do this. I will quick review, and today I will review in a very interesting manner. So I will review this habit from a different book, and you will be surprised. It's absolutely the same. And I will support Mr. Covey by offer to you example from a scientific book. So I was very surprised to read that, we have a different meetup, Buddha's brain, and this is beautiful correlation to habit number 5, and you will see how it's important. And I took just a couple of things which are really beautiful. Oh, I guess. Let me bring it here. So let's see what it's neuroscientists, what they are talking about habit number 5. Empathy is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. And what we were talking about, habit number 5, we were talking about empathic listening, right? So, and they are saying that it's a foundation. So also they're saying that empathy is respectful and soothing and usually evokes goodwill in return. Empathy is neither agreement nor approval. I think it's important, right, to know that we can emphasize with someone you wish would act differently. So I think it's very important to understand and differentiate it. So then the question, how to be empathic? The first step. The first step, I'll just say, because if we will start to talk, it would be a long conversation. I just wanted to emphasize the first step. Just bring conscious intention to be empathic. It sounds like very lame, right? But actually it's very important. Do you remember our listening maturity? And the first step was have a desire to listening. And this is bring conscious intention to being empathic. What is about that? Feel safe and strong enough to receive the other person fully. What does it remind to you?
You mean, how do you mean? What does that remind us of?
I mean, from Covey, what does it correlate to what we studied in habit number 5? Or just say what you think, and then I will add.
Sure. So when I see feel safe and strong enough to receive the other person fully, I put this in my leadership PowerPoint, it's this idea of emotional intelligence, right? And knowing yourself so that you can receive others in a socially intelligent manner. So I'm looking at it a little bit like that, but I'm trying to tie it into Covey.
No, this is not important, not like the most important, only talk about Covey. It's very appreciated to talk from your own experience and add something. I appreciate it.
And then it also is that idea, I appreciate that, Lena, and then seek to understand, right?
Exactly.
It also ties into that.
Exactly. Richard, please.
It reminds me of that one line that said, you must be influenced in order to be to influence others. You must first be influenced. I think something like that.
Okay. Okay. Any other opinion? Yeah, if you remember, Covey was saying that empathy, hard and risky. And see, they are saying feel safe and strong. Why? Because empathy, hard and risky. You can be influenced by someone because you're opening your heart by listening empathetically, right? And how can we be strong? How we can feel safe? How can we be strong? This is our three first habits. Habit 1, 2, and 3, our private victory, where we are grounding in our paradigm, right? So what about this? Be careful not to ask in any argumentative or prosecutorial way to advance your own viewpoint. What does it remind to you? We talk a lot about it. Don't ask or don't answer with your autobiography. Don't use autobiographical response. Do you remember? Yes, Richard.
Listening with the intent to understand rather than the intent to respond.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. What next? Use imagery which stimulates the right hemisphere of your brain. We talk a lot about it, about the imagery. Do you remember? I was putting the graph of our brain and how he said to use imagery. It's actually, again, sounds very lame and simple, but it's very important. Very important to use imagery. And what in this book is also, okay, go ahead, Richard, I will add.
Wasn't that the habit about begin with the end in mind, and we are the creators?
And that, yes, is this a lot. And even in win-win situation, we just need to, it will be a little bit later, but Covey used a lot imagery. So what is next? Asserting yourself. What is that? What does mean asserting? It's like basically be sure in yourself, right? So compassion is concern for suffering of beings, including yourself. Never forget yourself. Assertion is expressing your truth and pursuing your aims within any type of relationship. What does it remind to you? We just talked about it in the last class. So compassion and assertion. We talk about maturity. And maturity is the balance between courage and consideration. Courage will be assertion. Consideration will be compassion. unbelievable. I was really surprised to see how is it going sentence by sentence alone together. And they're doing the right thing draws on both head and heart. I just found it's very nice. So why we are doing good thing? Because it's not only good for the other, it's actually feels good for us as well. These guys, I was completely surprised. Personal code. What does it remind to you? Richard?
Character ethic.
Okay, what else? Stefan, we just talked about it. Mission statement. Guys, it's our mission statement. They just called it personal code. Let's see, do I have a volunteer to read from Buddha plus Science, what they recommend? Yes, Richard.
Yeah, I'll read. Listen more, talk less. Okay. Don't yell or threaten other people, and don't let them do that to me. Every day, ask my wife 3 questions in a row about how things are going for her. Get home by 6 every night to have dinner with family. Say what I need. Be loving and keep my promises.
It's more personal, but the mission statement can be completely up to you, right? So personal code. And what they also suggest, when it's done, visualize yourself acting according to this code, no matter what happened. And imagine the good feeling of a reward which will bring to you. No, I don't want to continue because it's about how we strengthen our synapses in our brain, but it's already science. So I just explained by myself what it's what I just said. So because our brain has plasticity, it's interesting actually fact, guys, that we don't see it. For example, when we do something, we don't see any changes in our body, right? But actually, everything what we do, it's change our brain. So because we need to remember, and if we were forcefully and purposely will visualize acting ourselves and imagine it, brain doesn't have differences between what we do. It's in a lot like actually what we do, or we visualize. Absolutely the same synapses are working. And the last thing, empathy is the basis of true compassion. And at the end, I want to offer you a great quote in order for us to work easier on empathy, because empathy is not easy. It's very difficult. If we could read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each man's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. I actually contemplated on this quote, and this is absolutely right. Do you want to share your opinion?
Sure, Lena, I can. This is Sanjay.
Yes, of course.
I definitely think that goes with the idea of empathy, and you never know anybody's story, right? You never, and I always allow people to tell me what they want to tell me. And I try not to make any assumptions, and I try to make sure that whatever information they give me is kept confidential in that particular situation, that I'm trustworthy. That's something I'm working on, and that I appreciate them, and I'm grateful for being in their presence. And that's what I try to do with each person. And you never know somebody's journey, and it's just this is very inspirational to read.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Beautiful. So guys, how our homework is doing? Let's do this because it's a few of us. Let's think of what we will go through application suggestions, or we will go right away into new habit, Synergy. Basically, and actually, I really like this application. At least my offer will be like this. At least read and maybe discuss briefly and go to habit number 6. Because we did just review. Let's do this quickly. Okay, guys, no objections, right? Do I have a volunteer to read the first? Number 1. Yes, Richard, thank you.
Okay. Number 1, select a relationship in which you sense the emotional bank account is in the red. Try to understand and write down the situation from the other person's point of view. In your next interaction, listen for understanding, comparing what you are hearing with what you wrote down. How valid were your assumptions? Did you really understand that individual's perspective?
Can anybody give an example from your life?
You know, Lena, this is Sanjay, if I could say.
Yes, I see that it's your speaking.
All right, I was just going to say, as far as emotional bank accounts, I have an open door policy, for example, with family, friends. And I know they say that you don't have to communicate with everyone, but I try to keep an open door for people who want to connect with me and who I love to connect with. And I don't force anything on anyone. Is that making sense? So in that sense, I don't find anything in the red. In other words, what I notice is if we're looking at the red to getting into the green, that means maybe with that relationship, I can say in my situation, I would prefer it to be another way. But I take each relationship for what it is. What I've noticed is by challenging my assumptions, not knowing the full story, going back to that Henry David Long's, the Longfellow quote, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one that you mentioned. I think that idea, since you don't know what everybody's going through and you just keep an open door, all I know is I got to work on myself. I got to keep myself intact, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, religiously, constantly grow, work on my habits, and that can attract them back, or it can attract people who already are talking to me, you know what I mean, connecting. But I've learned that I don't have to sweat it. Because it's interesting too, right? Because somebody could have a red bank account with somebody, and then they could be green with another person.
Yes.
I don't know. Those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, beautiful thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, Richard.
While I have for me, what feels like a low emotional bank account with my own daughter, who's already grown, mature, on her own, and making her own way in life. We've kind of come apart a little bit, and in our understanding of each other. Unfortunately, in my last interaction with her, we had lunch. We had a great lunch, but I didn't make a list of these things to try to add to that emotional bank account. But I did make a few suggestions that I guess were positive, and I'm going to try to get together with her again soon, and take these same points and try to apply them in that situation.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yes, absolutely. You are a great listener. You are empathic listener. But again, it's not only one side of the coin. We need to be asserting, and we need to be compassion. So not only compassion, not only asserting. So both of ways. But yes, absolutely. We are sure that you will do great. Actually, I also have, and I contemplating about that. I have, unfortunately, one relationship in red, and only that situation. It's not from my side. I'm like Sanjay. I'm completely open to talk right now, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. The other side doesn't want to talk to me. And of course I cannot push, I cannot do so far anything. I just need to wait. But when I was thinking about it and about number one, I actually came to the conclusion that my frustration about the situation actually not about that person wanted to do something to me. That person just living her life, and that person is doing her best. Her best. It doesn't mean that it's related, they go in a union with me. But so it took me a while, but I actually pretty happy with my summary, and whatever it will be a chance, I actually will meet that person even with more open heart. Yes, thank you. Richard, can you continue? Oh, Sanjay?
No, go ahead. Let Richard go.
Yeah, I said I finished.
Oh, but Richard, wasn't he going to say something?
No, I mean, who wants to read number two?
I was going to say something about number one, but it's okay.
Perfect. No, perfect. Please do it.
Okay, I was at Barnes and Nobles and I came across a book. I got to catch the title. I have it here on my desk somewhere. In that book, she says there are people that you hurt that you don't even know that you hurt. Yeah. And that just stopped me. I was standing actually browsing through the book in the bookstore. I'm like, wow. So in the emotional bank account being in the red, there are people that may perceive us, and I'm just speaking from, I'm extending that idea,
yes,
in the red, and you didn't even know you did something to put yourself in the red. So I like what you, go ahead, you're going to say.
No, go ahead. Absolutely, I said.
And that idea, Lena, of what you said, I love that, because I agree with you about being completely open. You just never know. And we don't know what filters they're looking at, why they could have, their life story, their experiences. So I find that very open, like just go in, very open, non-judgmental. I do think it deepens our sense of empathy. I think through the power of questions, a lot of the emotions dissipate because there's a deeper understanding, or there's a way to reframe it. But I do think going through our own individual emotional journey, you realize there's hope, or, a situation is, you come to accept it and learn from it and kind of take lessons or make it beneficial for others at an individual sense. But whoever's going to read number two would be great. I'd love to hear.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sanjay. Yes, we need to also remember that empathy is the basis of true compassion. So you see how our action already going into spirituality, straight to spirituality. So if you're empathic listener, you are actually have true compassion. Number two, who would like to read, please? Yes, Richard, thank you.
Number two says, share the concept of empathy with someone close to you. Tell him or her you want to work on really listening to others and ask for feedback in a week. How did you do? How did it make that person feel?
Anyone would like to share? I actually do. I am working on myself, and it's not 1 or 2 or 3 months, around a year, like really working on myself. And I'm asking my husband, I'm asking, please, even I'm asking not only how did I do, I'm asking help me. Because habits are really, really difficult to remove. And what we are doing, while we are calm, while we are reading something, while we are listening something good, we are feeling great. We think, yes, I can do it, I will do it. However, when we are especially in the situation, in the emotional situation, our brain is wired right away to our cerebellum over here, and we are going and acting right away. So, and this very difficult to do it by yourself alone. And when if your close one will understand that you're actually asking him or her for help, yes, it will be already a team. And whatever, for example, I'm emotional, and I'm like saying something, or my tone of voice, like, something like make a sign, and it would be good. Or productivity gap, so like anything just to help. Then it can be actually very enjoyable. Will we go forward?
Number 3.
Yes.
The next time you have an opportunity to watch people communicate, cover your ears for a few minutes and just watch. What emotions are being communicated that may not come across in words alone?
Can you share? I have a funny offering to you. When I was reading this number 3, we actually very often we are watching gags. You probably know that the Canadian producers, if you don't know it, you have to watch it. So gags, G-A-G-S, it's just for laugh. It's hilarious, and they are without any words. It's just music, and great practice, because you can see people's facial expression without any words, and it's funny. But of course, it's just a funny offering, but it's very helpful because to watch when people just communicate, because we remember that 60% of our communication is body language.
Is that on YouTube?
Yes. Yes. Okay, if we don't have any sharing, please stop if you want to share. I just want to move forward. Richard, can you continue?
Number 4, next time you catch yourself inappropriately using one of the autobiographical responses, probing, evaluating, advising, or interpreting, try to turn the situation into a deposit by acknowledgement and apology. I'm sorry, I just realized I'm not really trying to understand. Could we start again?
I think everybody do that. It's my feeling. I don't have any problems to apologize, and it doesn't matter who's that, a child or my husband or somebody else. Yes, Richard.
The hardest part is catching ourselves doing it.
Yes. What this is a great aging, and this is about how I'm asking to help me to work on myself, because we cannot see a piece of log in our eye, and we have a piece of dust in somebody else's eye. And the last, we won't read the last. Thank you, Richard. It's very related to the first one. Okay. So are we ready to go for habit number 6? Let's do it. So our habit number 6, synergize. And guys, see where we are. We went through beautiful journey. Habit number 1, Be proactive. It's you are the creator of your own reality. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. It means see where you're going. And remember that the first creation in your mind is the most important. And there is many confusions, but the second, what you are doing is also important, but we need to understand why we are doing and what the results and then doing. Habit number 3, it's simply put first things first. It's simply the ability to prioritize, right? Keeping your priority things on the top. Habit number 4, think win-win. It's actually to have the courage to seek mutual benefit, right? Instead of have a winner on one side and the losers on the other side. So see, in order to have win-win situation, we need to have courage. Habit number 5, it's timeless principle. And we just talk about it. And finally, habit number 6, it's the creation of new perspectives, something that wasn't there before. So it's our journey so far. Yes, Richard?
I was just going to remind or speak about what came to me as far as habit number 3 and the quadrants, the 4 quadrants, and how quadrant number 2 is important. And really the most magical or most important part is the ability to say no when it's necessary. That's what stuck with me in that
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for adding. And this is our outline, what we need to go through this chapter in order to understand and implement in our lives synergy. And it sounds like a lot, but it's not. And I always try to shorten our habits, but I can't. It's so beautiful, everything, and it's so important that I cannot do that. So I'm just short on how much I can. So what we will go through: principles of creative cooperation, synergistic communication, synergy in the classroom, in business and family, synergy in communication, fishing for the third alternative, negative synergy, valuing the differences, force field analysis. All nature is synergistic, and our favorite application suggestions. So at the end of this habit, what we will have the information about what and when we see 2 alternatives, yours, and the wrong one, right? It's what we are always think. So my alternative is right, and somebody else is wrong, right? And how we can look for a synergistic third alternative. And it's Mr. Covey saying there is almost always a third alternative, which is much better. Principles of creative cooperation. So I'm sure everybody heard about Winston Churchill, right? And there's in a book of Mr. Covey he wrote an interesting fact about him. So by BBC Radio, he was called the best British Prime Minister of the 20th century. I think, oh wow, of course I've heard about him, but I never knew that. So, and I just was looking through some of his quotes. They are, some of them hilarious and some of them really, really profound. Let me read you quickly. Success is not final. Failure is not final. It is the courage to continue the counts. Beautiful. If you're going through hell, keep going. I was laughing about that. What we are doing, guys, If we are in hell, we stuck in hell. We are complaining, we are complaining, we are calling to our friends, we complaining. So what doesn't complaining? Complaining is we stuck there. Just keep going. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. It's beautiful. Tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. I was laughing about that. It's beautiful. So maybe this is also toward our empathic listening. It's actually also can be that, because after empathic listening, people are more open for their story. Never, never, never give in. Exactly. Why we are doing that? Why we give in? I'm fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals. It's also kind of funny. A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So beautiful quotes. So what was the interesting fact, what Mr. Covey said, that when Sir Winston Churchill was called to head up the war to Great Britain, he remarked that all his life had prepared him for this hour. And in a similar sense, the exercise of all other habits prepared us for the habit of synergy. So it's a beautiful, beautiful habit. Principles of creative cooperation. Guys, if you want something to add, please raise your hand even I'm talking, and I will stop when it's appropriate and ask you, okay? So when properly understood, synergy is the highest activity in all life and true test and manifestation of all other habits, all put together. The highest form of synergy focus on win-win and the skills of empathic communication to create new alternative. So how can we have synergy if we don't know how to create win-win, if we don't have the skills of empathic listening? So what is synergy? Any idea? Just by your own words. Yes, Richard?
The other slide mentioned a third solution.
Okay.
If two people cannot agree on a solution, that some third solution, hopefully a combination of both, would be synergistic to both.
Yes, and Covey is saying better than before. So basically it said that the whole is greater than sum of its part. So we are stronger together. The creative process is also the most terrifying part, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen and where it's going to lead. You don't know what new dangers and challenges you will find. It's actually, Mr. Covey is saying that it's take enormous amount of eternal security to begin with the spirit of adventure, discovery, creativity. So without doubt, you have to leave your comfort zone. And the question right away, we are very comfortable in our comfort zone. We don't want to go from there. This is actually the problem with when we are getting older. We more and more feel the comfort of our comfort zone, right? And we don't want something new. So if we want to have a spirit of young people, just go ahead and explore some new. And Mr. Covey is telling us everything, even step by step, what to do. So with Synergy, we are opening new possibilities, new territories, new continents, and the other will follow. This is the interesting parable, strength and unity. It's actually Russian. You see there in Russian costumes. So I'll tell you quickly. It's a beautiful, very well known parable. So an old wise father taught his sons to live amicably, and to illustrate the lesson, he gave them a broom and told them to break it. So, of course, his sons tried to break the broom for a long time, but they failed. Then the father untied the broom and distributed a twig to his sons, and they easily broke individual rods. And he said to them, "You are like these rods. As long as you live in unity and friendship among yourselves, no one will be able to break you. But if you quarrel, you will die one by one." And the essence of Synergy is to value differences, to respect them, to build on strengths. So we obviously value the physical differences between men and women, right? Then what's the problem? Why it's our social, mental, and emotional differences are so painful to us? Do you have any idea? This is just your opinion, what you think. Yes, Richard?
The key message there on the bottom is to value the differences for me.
Right. See what Mr. Covey is saying, and it's completely the reality. We value the physical differences between men and women, right? We like how women look. We don't like when women look like men, right? We like how men look. We don't want that men would look like women. But if we have different opinions, we are irritated. Why is that?
Well, Lena, can I say something?
Yes, please.
As far as if you're talking about physical looks, I don't mind. Like when I go to the gym, some of the women I see are stronger than I am. All right. And I've been lifting weights for years. I definitely like the idea of masculinity and the idea of femininity. My understanding, I would love for you, if I understand this internally, is that we fall on a pendulum. And that by being empathetic and understanding a gender perspective in any particular society, that it allows us to relate to people. They actually found that feminine traits in leadership are preferred in 80% of leaders. So it's desired to have more feminine qualities because they found that feminine qualities tend to be more relatable.
Okay, it's opinion, very nice, thank you. How can I form differently? Because actually this is from Covey. So he's saying we obviously value the physical differences. So I think the most beautiful woman, she would be feminine, right? And the most handsome man, he would be masculine. And only these differences we value, we enjoy. What you said, Sanjay, that when they are masculine, of course it's okay, but still it doesn't bother us when a man see a woman, right? And he understands that she's different. So it means we value physical differences, but we don't value our emotional differences. For example, when we are arguing, when somebody is saying, not arguing, when somebody is saying different opinion, we don't say, oh, wow, it's wonderful, you have a different opinion. No, we try to make that person would think like you think, right? So this what Mr. Covey meant. And if we will, I just share my opinion and based also on Buddha's brain, this is threatening to us. When somebody, it's on a very, very deep level, because we are ruling by our subconscious. And subconscious like an iceberg. This is a little bit on the top. This is our conscious. And this is our subconscious. And all our memory and experiences of our ancestors are in this subconscious. And you remember those times when it was a very harsh time when the tribes kill each other and the wars all the time. And if just pure survival, when somebody else is thinking something different, it's threatening for us. And we still keep that in our subconscious memory. So this is why we are so aggressively arguing if somebody said something different than you. But of course, we are educated people, and the more we understand about brain, the more we will be able consciously work on it. Yes, Richard, please.
Just speaking of the general terms of men and women and relationships between them, someone said that women are like cats and men are like dogs, and very different in that sense. But yes, so we have to value those differences to get along, because they're quite different sometimes. Women generally tend to be more emotional than men, and men tend to be more logical in a sense than emotional. So in that sense, we just have to value those differences as it says.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for good adding. Yes, I don't think so that we still have as a habit to respect differences. It's still, we need to learn to do that. So synergistic communication. When you communicate synergistically, you're simply open your heart, mind to a new possibility, new alternative, new opinion. And again, that you're not sure how will it work and where you will end up, but still you are open for some kind of adventure. And of course, for that, you need to have your own security, and security with your habit number 1, 2, and 3, right? And then Mr. Covey is saying that many people actually have not really experienced even a moderate degree of synergy in their family life or other interactions. They have been trained and scripted into not trusting, defensive, and protective communication. And he's saying that this represents one of the greatest tragedies and wastes in life, because so much potentials remain untapped, undeveloped, unused. However, everybody, even those people who are in the picture, have some memories of some unusual creative experience. For example, perhaps in athletics, where they were involved in a real team spirit for a period of time, or for example, in choirs. Or perhaps they were an emergency situation where people cooperated to an unusually high degree and submerged ego and pride in effort to save someone's life. I'm actually have goosebumps by telling that. It's beautiful, exciting, exhilarating, creative. Anyone would like to share your opinion, your share? Did you have the situation which Mr. Covey describes in your life?
You mean in terms of synergistic communications?
Yes, yes. So this is just some examples of it. When you are one, yeah, go ahead, Sanjay.
Oh, go ahead. I want you to finish.
No, go ahead.
So I noticed that the synergistic communication right now, like I'm in transition, and the owner of the house, she's like family, and her boyfriend is too. We all talked about it, and they had been suggesting, the woman is originally from Brazil. She says, why don't you return to Brazil? I lived in Brazil for 2.5 years. And then it turned out that I also, I'd been visiting Portugal a few times, and I wanted to work to alleviate poverty in Brazil. So I wanted to meet with Portuguese politicians. I met a leadership coach, and the realtor there wanted to help me. So now all of a sudden, the synergistic communication, Lena and group, this sounds so crazy. Looks like I'm looking at a place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil and one in Portugal. And then I would broker deals with American businesses to alleviate the poverty in Rio de Janeiro. I'd start there, try a model, and move around. And then synergistically, I communicated with online schools. They're allowing me to take the school, like my work, out of the country. I thought I had to quit all my jobs and retire or be financially independent in order to work in something else because I was leaving the country, thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, everything's following. It's interesting because, as you said, right, the sum is greater than its parts, and one change in one part influences the whole. And everybody's been so adaptive. Even the professor in my leadership course is wonderful. He's allowing me to work on creative projects. I love the way the class is structured. I love all my coworkers and supervisors and students at the online schools. Everything's going well. And everything seems to be moving. I've been communicating with the moving company, storage facility. You know what I mean? I have stuff in different places, and I'm just working to synergistically bring everything together. And I found the perfect realtor in Brazil. I already have one in Portugal, and I believe I found the perfect house in Rio de Janeiro. So then I synergistically communicated with the guy by the name of Francisco in Lisbon, and he's going to connect with the leadership coach who's connected to all these people in other countries. And I put because of this, you inspired me, and Richard and others of you on this call have helped, and Stefan. What helped was he said, yes, she has contacts all over the world. So now I'm going to look for leadership coaches or politicians that can help with the project in Brazil. It's just crazy, right? Because I didn't know those contacts last year would be helping this year, or everything would be coming together as it is now. There are some moving parts, but it's all coming together.
Beautiful, Sanjay. Thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely. See, he's saying word by word that he doesn't know where it ended up. He doesn't know where he is going. He knows where he is going, but he doesn't know how it ended up. But he doesn't afraid. He believes in himself, and he's completely open with his heart and mind for new possibilities.
Thank you, and I'm grateful along the way to everyone.
Thank you, beautiful lady. Richard?
Great job, Sanjay. I'm privileged to know you, and I'm sure we'll all be hearing about your great efforts at some point.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it.
A privilege.
Awesome.
You inspire me as well. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, guys. But to some, Mr. Covey is saying that such event may seem unusual, almost out of character with life, even miraculous. But he's saying, no, it's not that so. Those things not those are these things, synergistic thing, it can be produced regularly, consistently, almost daily. And of course, he repeats again that it needs personal security and don't afraid and try, because it's based on trial and error. It doesn't based walking on the flowers. It's based on trial and error. And this is just a beautiful example. He described how he had a beautiful synergy in the classroom when someone shared something and all people got open and learn and listen to each other's idea, and the whole class were recreated and they fill with the spirit of creativity, and they ended up with completely new alternatives and new options. So this is beautiful. And then do I have a volunteer to read? Yes, Richard. Thank you.
Okay, it says, if a person of intelligence and competence and commitment disagrees with me, then there must be something to your disagreement that I don't understand, and I need to understand it. You have a perspective, a frame of reference I need to look at.
So this is what is Mr. Covey is saying. If a person of your intelligence, and even if a person is not your competence, commitment, and intelligence disagree with you, still we need to try to understand him or her, right? But this is what he meant, that willingly, with open heart, try to understand, because it will enrich you. Her opinion will enrich you, and you will go right away into synergistic relationship. Why still he point your intelligence? I will be more precise. Can we create a synergistic situation with a person from, for example, like deeply rooted independently in the dependent level? Richard?
Well, it seems like the answer would be no. I think we have to have competence, commitment, intelligence, and these are things that are generally in most people. So the statement, I believe, applies to many people. Unless there's some form of personal benefit that's not divulged, then yeah, if somebody's committed to some point of view that disagrees with ours, then yeah, we should listen and understand.
Yeah, yes, unfortunately, Mr. Covey thinks that it's practically, not 100%, but practically it's impossible to create a synergistic relationship with a person who is deeply rooted in the dependent mentality, because simply they are not strong enough. They don't base their paradigms on themselves. They are blaming everything around. So how can you create a synergistic situation with those people? We just, people who are with, how he's saying, intelligent competence and commitment, they can help people in the dependent level with better listening, longer listening, be more patient, be more kind, but still try to understand them, but put your paradigm and your values on the table as well. Yes.
Could I add, I know Stefan is going to be, hasn't spoken in a while. I don't know if he wanted to share first before I say anything. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Is it Stefan or Stephen?
Stephen.
Stephen, sorry about that. I appreciate it. Okay, so Lena, I wanted to find out, and Richard, I love what you said. What I noticed is sometimes I have grandiose ideas. And so I'll have people disagree with me at times, but I love it because the way I look at it is tell me what I need to know. I haven't done this. So let me give you an example. So in Brazil, if I could share this example, there are 12 million people living in favelas around Brazil. 12 million. So I have this idea of building Amazon villages, right? And using Jeff Bezos and other types of companies, American investment, because see, the powers that be, I've been looking at the political situation. There's criminal activity that's also keeping people there. The labor force is drawing from people in the favelas. So I'm looking at what would need to be done, but I've also had people challenge me, well, you've never done anything like that before. But I also have 24 years of teaching. I've lived in Brazil, been to the favelas. I speak Portuguese, and I can work on my communication skills and be persuasive to get people to help. So just because I haven't done it, I can get the people around me in the Gilded Age, right? A lot of those titans, a lot of you obviously a lot of you here, probably all of you know them, like the Think and Grow Rich, right? Those success titans that Napoleon Hill is talking about, what did they do? They didn't have a lot of the skill sets. Even Steve Jobs, right? In certain ways, but you have to get the people around you that are numbers people, money people. So what they would do, I think Henry Ford did something like this. You get people into a room, close the door. How do we make this happen? If you want to make it happen. And the interesting thing is, because I know the Brazilian government might be challenging it, I'm an outsider. You know what I mean? I've lived all over Brazil, been there for 2.5 years, but my understanding of race relations, understanding the systems of stratification, I've written papers. Some of the presidents of Brazil, there's one in particular, he also taught sociology. He was a sociology professor. So I have enough to where I can network. If I meet with the politicians, political people, then we get the people with the MBAs, all the number people, and then we'll figure out how to make the money. But by getting the heavy hitters involved, we create that critical mass and we keep it going. I think that Rio de Janeiro could be a good model, and then we try it for other cities. And then I lived in the jungle, or well, the rainforest of Brazil, and I saw the slashing and burning as I was flying over, and I would love to help the indigenous people as well. So all of a sudden, these experiences, when I saw them, in my 20s, I didn't know that. I just accepted this. I thought that's just the way life was. I thought that, that's just the way it is. But what if you step outside? You're going to have people disagree with you. That doesn't have to be the way it is. Okay, it is the way it is, but why can't it be something else? How do we make it happen? Let's lock the doors. Get in here, sit around the conference table.
I still like it.
You just see it through. You have to be crazy.
Yeah.
What do you? So you're gonna have people disagreeing with you, but disagreement should keep you going. If you disagree with me, okay, and I tried something and it didn't work in that particular way, like the light bulb, Edison, all that stuff, I can try going. But why disagree and shut down something that could work? If you have another idea that could help out, it's at least doing something, right? So that I think is very helpful.
Thank you, beautiful. So you are using an empathic listening and the courage. How you're saying, close the door, let's close the door until we won't decide. So this is courage. Not everybody can able to say that. Usually, it's much easier to pretend that nothing happened or you agree. You agree, everything is good, but no, we need to have courage as well to empathic listening. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for sharing. Yes, Richard, please.
Yes, as Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up.
Yes.
And that's about having commitment. Certainly the intelligence, the commitment is there. And sometimes people that disagree do so for other reasons other than to give you good feedback. And that's something that also you have to kind of weed through. But commitment. Yeah, it's very important. And you have it, certainly.
Stephen, we didn't hear from you anything today.
No, I haven't been able, there's nothing I've been able to comment on. I've just been thinking through the whole, all and everything we've talked about.
But you have a lot to share with us as well. From your mission statement, you are doing great things. You are working on your health. You are working on changing yourself. Everything. If you want to change the world, start from yourself.
Changing me is very hard, and the commitment to change is waivers. The only thing that I've thought about is that it's very hard to stay. It's easy to go back to old habits. And I've had trouble winning with myself for my entire life.
No problem.
The only thing that I can think of is that it looks like, that visualization, that Dr. Covey says in here somewhere, to get into a relaxed state and visualize yourself
Right.
behaving differently.
Yes.
That maybe that's a tool for permanent change, for making things stick.
Yes, Stefan, I'm completely with you, and I want to tell you, welcome to the company. I'm working on myself very hard all my life as well. First, there is no limit to be better, and we are where we are. We are who we are, and we need to compare ourselves not with someone else. We need to compare ourselves with yourselves, with ourselves. So where I was 1 month ago, am I getting better? I'm doing better? Where I was 1 year ago? We don't know from where we came, what background we have. We need to be very kind to yourself, because whatever we have inside, we can share. So if we will, I am very tough on myself, I keep telling it, and it's actually a big disadventure. You can say, oh no, you're like strong and strict. No, I'm strong and strict with 2 people as well, and it's disadventure. And when we hard on ourselves, when we blame ourselves, when we disappoint with ourselves, there is no way we can progress. It's, I'm telling you, absolutely spiritual truth. Mr. Covey didn't say much about it, but I'm telling you, it's absolutely the truth. Praise yourself, say yourself how good you are, and do it. It's much, much easier. Way will be to get actually better, because we are, whatever we think, we materialize it, we manifest it. Everything what we think, if we think that we are not good, we will experience it. If we think that we are good, we will experience it as well. You can say, oh, you're asking me to lie. Yes, start to lie yourself. Start to tell a different story to other people. Just start to get familiar with your new status. Because what is belief? Belief is just a thought we keep thinking. And our belief become our reality. So this is my way. I don't tell it to you. I'm sharing the way how I'm working on myself. And it's working. Yes, Richard, please.
I did see a very interesting movie that it talks about some points from Covey and some ideas that I have as well, called The Secret. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Talks about the law of attraction. But the main thing that comes to me is that it's definitely associated with Covey's begin with the end in mind. So you have the end in mind and you focus on that. For me, one of my models is always you get what you focus on. And whenever I feel like I'm not getting what I want, I realize to myself that I lost my focus, and that's why. So if you haven't seen it, The Secret is a very good movie. It's great for positive thinking, but it helps.
It's a great movie. It's actually that movie changed the lives of millions and millions of people. So who watched that? No, maybe not millions, but thousands of people. That's for sure. And it's not on YouTube. On YouTube, many falls The Secret. I think it's can be Netflix, or it can be on Vudu, or on Prime. I think on Prime, Amazon, so like that. Yes, it's a great movie. Thank you for sharing. Check what is next. Yes, and the synergy in business and family, of course, guys, it's based on trust. You need to have safety. You need to have willingness to create. You have to have creativeness. You have to be excited, fearlessness, adventurous, and mature. So without maturity, will be difficult or practically impossible to create a synergy in your life. So this is interesting graph. It's pretty basic, but I found it still useful to keep it in mind in order to see how people communicate and to understand how and where and which level they are. So it's starting, of course, the lowest level. You see, so this on the bottom, cooperation and trust. And the lowest level of communication coming, of course, from the low trust situation. And it's characterized by defensiveness, protectiveness, and often legalistic language. What do you mean? It's kind of was striking me. Why legalistic language?
I can share.
Yes, Andrzej.
So I had a law professor. One of my master's degrees was in psychology, but I was trained by a lawyer, and I earned a graduate certificate in conflict resolution. And what she said, I may have mentioned this in one of the other sessions. Her name is Jessica Nutini from Golden Gate University. She did a lot of international diplomacy things. She said, once you go to court, you get locked in positions. So then you fall back into defensive, win, lose, essentially. However, when you let other people know, this is where I'm going to put a little caveat here. When you show them the legal basis of your thinking, it's not a threat. But think of Keith Gorey talks about the book called Ethics in America. So if you show someone legal violations and then you also acknowledge your own kind of conduct in a situation, what happens is it's better to go into a compromise situation there. And then you go into synergistic, because what you do is you put the cards on the table. And remember, people aren't always aware of their, those types of situations. But when you use the law as an appeal to standard, and one lawyer said it was in Black History Month, and it was like, there are 42 modules in masterclass. So what she says is whenever you're interacting with an institution or something like that, one of the lawyers said, and it was about Black empowerment. So it had these videos. She was a lawyer, and she said, you have to hold government agencies or businesses or whatever to their standards, to their values. So by using the law in not a threatening way, but in a way to kind of, if you're working with a business, corporate law or some sort of, government law, and you show them these are your values, these are the legal standards, here's where I am, here's what I've acknowledged, where do you want to go from here? What do you want to do? What happens is if you threaten someone with court, you fall back into defensive. Or if people try to settle, they might settle real cheap, but you don't really get to the heart of the issue. You don't really get to resolving the issue, but it might be a limited contact or a limited type of situation. So then you're done. But when you go for win-win, there's something called dovetailing. And dovetailing is finding a way to meet complementary needs. It's like win-win. And you try to find a way to make everything work. But that professor was great. I mean, I love a lot of what she said. And, you know, their books, Getting Past No, Getting to Yes.
Mhm.
And, but I think when you're at the table, then I think when you keep the lines of communication open, I think hostage negotiators like Chris Voss, all these people you see on YouTube or, you know, in masterclass, and these people, if you keep the lines of communication open, then you can work with whoever you need to work with, whether it's a government agency, business, individual, but definitely people want to be heard. People want to be heard. And then what happens is you uncover other things that you didn't even know. And one thing they have in conflict resolution, if you don't mind if I share, it's
Yeah.
called the BATNA. It's called the BATNA. It's the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So you want to know what your bottom line is essentially going into a negotiation. And Herb Cohen has great books on negotiation, and you want to be grateful for anything, but then you also know when to walk away. But I think by staying at the table and seeing something through, you can bring healing in all ways to a lot of situations that may not have been addressed, that come and get addressed at the table. There's just my 2 cents. And then you get to the synergistic level.
Yes, great, very educated example. Thank you very much, Sanjay. Richard, something probably was with your phone, so we came to this graph and we just started to discuss the lowest level of communication coming from the low trust situation, and there's defensiveness, protectiveness, and people use legalistic language. And Sanjay described very beautifully what is legalistic language, which is beautifully should be used in a professional situations. How about legalistic language in a personal relationship? Is it appropriate to use it? And how I understood, Mr. Covey is actually saying that he put legalistic language on the same level of defensiveness and protectiveness. Is there any example?
Well, thanks for the recap. My battery died on me, so
Yeah.
my phone at this point. But yeah, I can see that. What's in any kind of discussion, whether relationship or so, if we don't have any trust and start using legal language with each other, we're in trouble. Things that require more attention, trying to get attention,
Right.
and saying, if you don't take care of this, because legal language is a process of, I believe it's a process of putting everything very clearly so there's no doubt, and that's what's done in contracts. And some of that language doesn't make it into our own conversation and relationships, which it shouldn't, because absolutely at that point, you're talking about a lot of lack of trust, in other words.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. Great example. Because now, yes, Sanjay.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're my priority.
Richard, one thing I would say is, like, I use like legal language when I'm teaching. I've taught different medical law and ethics classes,
Right.
and I use different types of law to make points to back up what I'm saying. I'm actually getting ready to teach a philosophy course. It also helps me with critical thinking. Some people might not be aware of the law. And what I find is that the law has a galvanizing effect, because when I was telling when you were, I guess, working on your phone, there's something called appeal to standards. So you can use the law as an appealing to standards. And what I've noticed is when I communicate with lawyers, then I can speak their language and I give them the rational basis of what I'm thinking, or if I'm like, just for example, with the laws of what I'm planning to do in Brazil, right? Or Portugal. One thing I noticed in my 20s, even after, taking classes with that lawyer, getting the certificates, I don't know that I had the maturity to understand how to apply or didn't have the real life experience or all the context. But what happens is the law becomes something to help with compliance. You follow what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it as a legal compliance. Are we in compliance or not? If we're not in compliance, why is that? And like you said, Richard, if I hear you right, we got to look at from start to finish, or the order, or in contracts, this, that, or the other. But what are the mitigating circumstances? We got the X, Y, and what is the Z? What is the confounding variable, or why might this situation be problematic here, but it's okay over here? And I think by getting everything I've noticed onto the table, is there anything else that we need to consider? Oh, yes, this. All right, how do we make this all work? And how do we make this mutually beneficial? And then shed light on what might not have been addressed otherwise. And so in that way, the law, I'm just sharing this, becomes this kind of pathway, a beacon of light to resolve situations. You can stay in compliance, something can be beneficial, and there could be new guidelines established, or maybe it's a one-time thing just for a contract, like you said, but it can really shed light on the impact of situations that other people might not even be aware of. And it doesn't have to be a combative type of thing, but it actually, instead of just giving an opinion, it shows you, well, here are the guidelines, this is what the law says here, this is where this person might have been out of violation here, or this is what they did to correct it. And so by having that conversation with lawyers, leaders, politicians, or whoever, there's a way to use the law, not in a threatening manner, because you could even just agree to speak to a lawyer. We're just going to work this out without going to court. You have arbitration. You also have mediation. Arbitration, you have someone court appointed, like a former judge, and they can have something legally binding. Mediation, you don't have to do that. But by knowing your opportunities and where to go, you stay on it and you resolve it. If it's important to both of you. And if it's important to one person in that situation, something will get resolved. It's pretty important, but you want to find a way to make it all work. It's just a thought. Thanks.
Sanjay, you are completely right. You are talking about professional situations. Would you talk in this manner with your spouse, with your children, with your parents?
Probably not. You wouldn't bring.
It's what we are talking. It's what Mr. Covey is talking about. It's like you're describing the professional situation completely correct. And if we will talk legalistic language, I will talk to my husband. It's create a barrier between us. I become defensive. I protect myself with the law. But if I have a problem, if I'm saying, dear, I'm hurting here in this situation, let's discuss. This is simple language.
Lena, one thing is, let's say you have a child and the child likes to jaywalk, right? And now it's I see this around here, and I don't know if Richard or Steven see this, or Lena, if you see this. I'll see people just, it says red, it shows the red person, and they'll just, scoot across the pedestrian walkway, and I'll wait. It's funny, I'll wait. I don't care if everyone else is going. I'll wait for it to turn green, and then I go. I would tell my child, and it wouldn't be legalistic, but you don't want to get in trouble with the police if you jaywalk. And here's what jaywalking is. I think in some sense, if you're racing, you throw in a little bit of the law. What do you think? And I know it's a little bit different from the example you gave, but I just put it out there.
It's actually an interesting example. I don't see anything wrong with what you say. Anu, guys, what do you think about it?
I would say that, yes, that's absolutely true. But if I come home and my wife hasn't prepared dinner, and I tell her, I think it would be an appropriate communication. It would be legally correct. Time is up, but
Probably luck.
I see what you mean. Yes, there is some degrees. Let Stephen please say.
So if you're using, I think in a personal relationship, if you're starting to get into legalistic language, it means the relationship's in trouble. You know, it's
Exactly.
people are going to their corners and they're getting ready. They're just about ready to fight. You know,
Yes.
so
yes, absolutely.
the trust is low in the relationship if that's happening. It's called
And-
divorce. If it's a marriage, it's called divorce. Mhm.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. Good adding. Yes, and for example, about even the child and the crossing the street, is it the major problem that he or she will have problems with police? How's about if something happened? Maybe it would be also a good idea to say that it can happen an accident. You can lose your life. So maybe that more important than police. Yes. Richard, you had a funny example. Thank you. So, guys, let me finish on this slide, and it's 8:34. We had a wonderful conversation. Thank you. So this is, of course, I won't repeat. And the middle position, it's already respectful communication. This is level where fairly mature people interact. They respect each other. They want to avoid possible of ugly confrontations, and they communicate politely, but not really empathetically. And the highest level, of course, it's synergy, it's communicating empathically, it's listening, it's creating a new alternative. So let's stop on it for today. And, if you want to share your opinion or give some feedback, it's time for that.
I loved the session today. I loved hearing what Stephen, Richard and you mentioned. Lena, I love your sessions as always. I'm grateful for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanjay. So I guess people, for some cases, think that habit number 6 and 7 not that important, but it means who think that probably they're not ready for habit number 6 and 7. It's the culmination of all habits. I personally absolutely love them. Yes, of course, I love all habits. So thank you, Stephen, for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you, guys, for coming as well, for all of your great comments. I tremendously enjoyed our conversation. And Sanjay, you are doing terrific things, and we love to hear your adventure and how you're progressing in it. Please share with us. Richard is doing absolutely great in his business, and he has to share a lot. Stephen is doing great with his mission statement and the beautiful job on himself. So I am with Stefan. I am working on myself as well. And so we are all doing our best, and this is the most important. Beautiful meeting. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday at 7 p.m. And actually this week will be Buddha's Brain. So if you are available on Thursday at 6:30.
Thank you, Rich, Stephen, and Lena. Appreciate all of you. Love and blessings.
Okay.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good luck.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Good night.